The text came through at 11:42 p.m. on a Thursday. I wasn't supposed to see it. My husband, Dr. Matt Moretti's phone buzzed on our kitchen counter while he was in the shower. Normally, I wouldn't look. After 15 years of marriage, trust wasn't something I questioned. But the repetitive buzzing caught my attention. 3 messages in quick succession. I glanced over and saw the preview on his lock screen. Can't wait for tomorrow. Same place. I miss your hands already. The way you looked at me today in the hallway. No one has ever made me feel that way. They were from someone named Angie W. I knew that name. Angela Williams. The new trauma nurse who had started at Boston Memorial 6 months ago. My stomach dropped as if I'd stepped off a cliff. The bathroom door was still closed, water running. Without thinking, I picked up Matt's phone. It required his fingerprint to unlock, but the message previews were visible on the screen. I scrolled up slightly, just enough to see his last message to her. Wait for me tomorrow. 8 p.m. I'll make an excuse at home. Matt and I had dinner plans tomorrow night. Our anniversary dinner. The shower turned off. I quickly placed the phone back exactly where it had been and moved to the living room, my mind racing, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Matt emerged from the bathroom, towel around his waist, his dark hair wet and slicked back. At 45, he still looked like the man I'd fallen in love with during my final year of graduate school. Distinguished, with slight gray at his temples that only made him more handsome. Hey, you're still up, he said, smiling that warm smile that had made me trust him instantly when we first met. I thought you'd be asleep by now. I forced a smile, my theater degree finally proving useful. Just finishing up some work emails. I was Lauren Moretti, 42, with a PhD in art history, curator at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. We had built what I thought was a perfect life. No children by choice, but a beautiful home in Beacon Hill, successful careers, and what I had believed was an unbreakable bond. Don't stay up too late, he said, kissing the top of my head as he passed by. Big day tomorrow at the hospital. Double shift. A lie so smooth I almost believed it despite what I'd just seen. Of course, I replied, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. Don't worry about me. That night, lying beside him in bed, I stared at the ceiling fan spinning above us. The man I'd loved for almost 2 decades was sleeping peacefully beside me while my world collapsed. The bitter October wind rattled our bedroom window, matching the trembling I felt inside. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I began to plan. What Matt didn't know was that I'd already taken screenshots of those messages using my own phone. And by tomorrow night, his perfectly constructed life would begin to unravel thread by thread. Morning arrived with harsh sunlight cutting through our bedroom blinds. Matt was already gone. Early surgery, according to the note he'd left on the kitchen counter. Another lie. I called in sick to work, something I'd done maybe 3 times in my entire career. My assistant director, Lena, didn't question it. She'd heard something in my voice that told her not to. I'll reschedule your meeting with the new donors, she said. Take care of yourself, Liv. After hanging up, I sat at our kitchen island, staring at Matt's coffee mug. Half empty, lipstick on the rim. Not mine. The evidence had been there all along. I just refused to see it. The late nights. The sudden interest in his appearance. The new cologne. The emergency surgeries that kept him at the hospital overnight. Classic signs I'd been blind to. I opened my laptop and logged into our shared cell phone account. There it was, hundreds of texts between Matt and a number I didn't recognize, going back 4 months. Late-night calls. Picture messages. My fingers moved mechanically as I took screenshots, downloaded call logs, forwarded everything to my personal email. I wasn't just hurt, I was methodical. Next, I checked our joint bank account. Frequent withdrawals of $200 to $300. Dinner charges at restaurants we'd never been to together. A hotel charge from 2 weeks ago when he'd told me he was at a medical conference in New York. I picked up my phone and dialed my best friend, Caroline. Liv. Aren't you supposed to be at work? She answered. Matt is having an affair, I said, my voice flat. Silence then. I'm coming over. Don't move. 30 minutes later, Caroline was at my kitchen table, her legal notepad out. As a divorce attorney, she'd seen this hundreds of times. I never thought she'd be taking notes for me. The nurse, Angela Williams, she's new, I explained, pulling up her Facebook profile. 28 years old. Caroline nodded, taking notes. How did you find out? I showed her the texts, the bank statements, the call logs. Have you confronted him? She asked. Not yet. He thinks we're having anniversary dinner tonight. But he told her he'll meet her at 8 p.m. Caroline put her pen down. What are you going to do? I took a deep breath. I'm going to catch them together. Liv, that's not necessary for the divorce proceedings. We have enough. This isn't about the divorce, Caroline. Not yet. This is about making sure he can never deny what he did. Never gaslight me into thinking I'm crazy or jealous or overreacting. My voice cracked for the first time. 15 years, Caroline. 15 years while he... She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Then we need a plan. For the next hour, we mapped it out. I would go to the hospital, not to their meeting place. Making a scene at some hotel or restaurant would only embarrass me. No, I would confront him at Boston Memorial, where his reputation mattered most. Are you sure you want to do this publicly? Caroline asked. I nodded. He made me believe our marriage was happening in public. I want everyone to see it end. After Caroline left, I opened my closet. If I was going to have the worst day of my life, I would at least look my best. I pulled out the red dress Matt had always loved, the one he said made me look like a Renaissance painting come to life. Then I sat down at my vanity and began to apply my makeup, my hands steadier than they had any right to be. I thought about the day we met. I was giving a guest lecture at the University Medical Center on art used in healing environments. He was a resident then, sitting in the front row, asking insightful questions. He'd waited afterward, asked me to coffee. I'd said yes immediately, drawn to his intelligence, his passion, his apparent integrity. A tear finally escaped, trailing down my cheek. I wiped it away and continued applying my eyeliner with precision. My phone buzzed with a text from Matt. Can't wait for tonight. Got you something special. Love you. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the small safe in my closet where I kept important documents and my grandmother's jewelry. I removed our marriage certificate, our joint property deeds, and my personal financial records, placing them in my briefcase. What Matt didn't realize was that while he was writing sweet nothings to his nurse, I was systematically documenting every aspect of his betrayal. And the USB drive now hanging around my neck contained enough evidence to destroy not just our marriage, but possibly his career. By 3 p.m., I was parked in the Boston Memorial Hospital visitors lot. I'd been sitting there for 20 minutes, gathering my courage. The hospital loomed before me. A massive concrete structure where Matt had built his reputation as one of the top cardiovascular surgeons in New England. My phone buzzed with a text from Caroline. You don't have to do this today. We can take time to prepare. I responded. It has to be today, before I lose my nerve. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of my car. The October air bit at my skin as I walked toward the main entrance, my red dress visible beneath my open coat, my heels clicking against the pavement. At the reception desk, I smiled at the volunteer, an elderly woman with kind eyes. I'm here to see Dr. Matt Moretti. I'm his wife. Oh, Mrs. Moretti. I've heard so much about you, she said warmly. Dr. Moretti is in surgery right now, but he should be finishing up soon. Would you like me to call up to thee or? No, I said quickly. I'd like to surprise him. Is there somewhere I can wait near the surgical floor? She gave me a visitor's badge and directed me to the 5th floor waiting area. The surgical staff comes through there after procedures. I thanked her and took the elevator up, my heart hammering. The surgical floor was busy, nurses rushing back and forth, residents huddled over charts, the sterile smell of antiseptic heavy in the air. I sat in the waiting area, watching the double doors that led to the operating rooms. An hour passed, then another. My determination didn't waver. Finally, at 5:45 p.m., the doors swung open, and Matt emerged in his scrubs, surgical cap still on. He was laughing with a colleague, looking energized despite having supposedly been in surgery all day. He didn't see me at first. I waited until he was halfway across the room, before standing up. Matt. He turned, his smile freezing when he saw me. Lauren? What are you doing here? I walked toward him, aware that several staff members were watching us now. I thought I'd surprise you. Take you to dinner early for our anniversary. His colleague, Dr. Chen, patted Matt on the shoulder. I'll let you two catch up, he said, nodding politely to me before walking away. Matt approached me, lowering his voice. You should have called first. I told you I have a double shift today. Do you? I asked, my voice steady. That's odd because according to the surgical schedule I checked at the front desk, you don't have another surgery until tomorrow morning. His face tightened almost imperceptibly. There was a change. An emergency came in. Is the emergency named Angela? I asked quietly. His face paled, but he recovered quickly. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's not do this here. He took my elbow, trying to guide me toward a more private area. I pulled away. No, I think here is perfect. Where are your colleagues? Your residents? The hospital board members who gave you that leadership award last year. Lauren, he said, his voice a warning. You're upset. Let's go talk somewhere private. I saw the texts, Matt. I know about the hotel in New York. I know about the money. I know everything. His expression changed, morphing from concern to calculation. Let's discuss this at home. I can explain. A group of residents walked by, eyeing us curiously. Matt forced a smile and nodded at them. There's nothing to explain, I said, my voice rising slightly. You've been sleeping with Angela Williams. You were planning to meet her tonight at 8 p.m. on our anniversary. Lower your voice, he hissed. Why? Are you afraid someone will hear? Afraid it might damage your perfect reputation? Just then, the elevator doors opened, and a young woman stepped out. Tall, blonde, wearing scrubs with a trauma unit badge. Angela Williams. She saw us and froze. Matt's eyes darted between us, panic creeping into his expression. Is that her? I asked, though I already knew the answer. I'd seen her Facebook photos. Before he could stop me, I walked directly toward her. Angela Williams? She blinked, confused. Yes. I'm Lauren Moretti, Matt's wife. We were just discussing your plans for 8 p.m. tonight. Her face drained of color. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't bother lying. I've seen the texts. I turned back to Matt, who had followed me. Both of you have been lying for months. But it ends today. By now, a small crowd had gathered, nurses, doctors, a few patients. Matt looked around, desperation in his eyes. Lauren, please, he said, reaching for my arm again. Let's go home. I shook him off. I'm not going anywhere with you. Not now, not ever again. Angela started backing toward the elevator. I should go. Stay, I commanded, my voice sharp. You're as much a part of this as he is. She stopped, looking like a deer in headlights. I reached into my purse and pulled out printed copies of their text messages. Tell me, do either of you want to explain these to the hospital ethics board? I'm sure they'd be interested in a senior doctor having an affair with a subordinate. Matt stepped forward, his voice low and threatening. You wouldn't dare. I smiled coldly. I already have. I emailed copies to Dr. Harrison an hour ago. Dr. Harrison was the chief of surgery and Matt's direct superior. Matt's face went from pale to ashen. You're bluffing, he whispered. I held up my phone, showing him the sent email. Am I? What neither Matt nor Angela realized was that I'd spent the entire day not just gathering evidence of their affair, but researching the hospital's ethics policies. And tomorrow morning, the board would receive an anonymous package containing every detail of how their star surgeon had been violating those policies for months. The hospital corridor had gone eerily quiet. Even patients had stopped to watch the drama unfolding. I could see hospital security hovering uncertainly at the edges, unsure if they should intervene. Lauren, Matt said, his voice dropping to a pleading whisper. This isn't you. You don't make scenes. You don't do public confrontations. You're right. I replied loudly enough for everyone to hear. The old Lauren wouldn't. But the old Lauren died last night when she saw those texts. Angela was still frozen in place, her eyes darting between us and the exit. Dr. Moretti, I should really. Stay right where you are. I commanded again. You chose to get involved with a married man. You can handle the consequences. Matt stepped closer to me, his face a mask of controlled rage. You've made your point. Now let's take this conversation somewhere private before you say something you'll regret. The only thing I regret is wasting 15 years with you, I said, my voice breaking slightly. 15 years of supporting your career, organizing fundraisers for this hospital, hosting dinner parties for your colleagues, all while you were, what? Testing out the new staff. A collective gasp rose from the onlookers. I saw Dr. Chen return, concern etched on his face. Matt, he asked, everything okay here? Before Matt could answer, I turned to Dr. Chen. Michael, did you know Matt has been sleeping with Nurse Williams? On hospital property during shifts? Dr. Chen's eyes widened. He'd been our friend for years, had been at our wedding. Lauren, I don't think. It's true, came a voice from behind me. We all turned to see an older nurse standing there, arms crossed. Patricia Dawson. She'd been at Boston Memorial for 20 years. I've seen them coming out of the on-call room together, she continued, her voice steady. Multiple times. Always during Dr. Moretti's shifts. Matt looked like he'd been slapped. Patricia, that's completely inappropriate and untrue. Patricia raised an eyebrow. Is it, doctor? Because I've documented dates and times. After what happened with Dr. Stevens last year, I've learned to keep records. I didn't know what had happened with Dr. Stevens, but judging by the murmurs that swept through the crowd, it was significant. Angela finally found her voice. This is all a misunderstanding. Dr. Moretti has been mentoring me. Is that what they call it now? I asked, pulling out my phone. Should I read some of these texts aloud? The ones about how he loves the birthmark on your inner thigh? Or how about the hotel receipts? She blanched. Matt stepped between us. Enough, Lauren. You've humiliated us both. Are you satisfied? I looked him straight in the eyes. No, I'm not satisfied. Satisfaction would be watching you lose everything like you just made me lose everything. But this is a start. The elevator doors opened again, and Dr. Harrison stepped out. Tall, imposing, with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, he commanded attention immediately. The crowd parted for him. What's going on here? He demanded, looking from Matt to me to Angela. Matt straightened, professional mask sliding back into place. Just a personal matter, Robert. My wife is upset. I received your email, Mrs. Moretti, Dr. Harrison interrupted, turning to me. Along with the attachments. I was just coming to find Dr. Moretti. Matt paled. Robert, I can explain. My office now, Dr. Harrison said coldly. Nurse Williams, you two? He turned to me. Mrs. Moretti, would you mind accompanying us? I nodded, a small surge of vindication flowing through me. As we walked toward the administrative wing, I could feel everyone's eyes on us. Matt walked stiffly beside me, not looking at me or Angela, who trailed behind us. Dr. Harrison's office was spacious, with large windows overlooking the Boston skyline. He closed the door firmly behind us. Sit, he commanded. We all sat, Matt and I on one side of the desk, Angela on the other, as far from Matt as possible. I've known you for 15 years, Matt, Dr. Harrison began. I trained you. I vouched for you when you were up for department head. And now I learn you've been having an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate, compromising patient care by being distracted during shifts, and potentially exposing this hospital to a sexual harassment lawsuit. Robert, this is a private matter, Matt began. The moment you brought it into my hospital, it ceased to be private, Dr. Harrison cut him off. The texts Mrs. Moretti forwarded show you arranging meetings during your shifts. The security footage she suggested I review confirms you entering and exiting on-call rooms with Nurse Williams when you were supposed to be monitoring post-operative patients. My breath caught. I hadn't known about any security footage. Dr. Harrison was clearly conducting his own investigation based on my tip. Effective immediately, you're suspended pending a full ethics committee review, Dr. Harrison continued. Nurse Williams, you'll be reassigned to a different department, and will also face review. Angela began to cry silently. Matt sat rigidly, his face unreadable. Robert, my patients, Matt started, will be reassigned to other surgeons. Your procedures for the next 2 weeks will be covered by Dr. Chun and Dr. Patel. Dr. Harrison turned to me. Mrs. Moretti, I apologize on behalf of Boston Memorial. This type of behavior is not what we stand for. I nodded, suddenly feeling hollow despite getting exactly what I'd wanted. Thank you. As we left Dr. Harrison's office, Matt grabbed my arm. Are you happy now? You've ruined my career. I pulled away. No, Matt. You did that all by yourself. What Matt couldn't see was that beneath my composed exterior, I was already planning my next steps. Because while his professional life was crumbling around him, I had already contacted a real estate agent about our house, transferred half our joint assets to my private account, and booked a flight to Italy for the following week. The confrontation at the hospital was just the beginning. The ride home was silent. Matt had insisted on driving me, despite my protests. We need to talk, he'd said, his voice a mixture of anger and desperation. I'd agreed only because I needed to get some of my things from our house. I'd already arranged to stay with Caroline for the night. As he drove through the streets of Boston, the setting sun cast long shadows through the windshield. The same route we'd taken thousands of times now felt like a journey through a foreign land. You didn't have to do it that way, he finally said, breaking the silence. You could have talked to me privately. I laughed, a hollow sound. Like you talked to me about wanting to sleep with someone else? About wanting to leave our marriage? I wasn't going to leave you, he said quickly. It was just what? A fling? A midlife crisis? Does that make it better? He gripped the steering wheel tighter. You don't understand the pressure I'm under at the hospital. The constant stress, the life and death decisions every day. And Angela helped relieve that stress? In the on-call room between surgeries. My voice was ice. He flinched. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Matt? Explain it to me. He pulled into our driveway but didn't turn off the engine. She made me feel appreciated. Important. Like my work mattered. And I didn't? I asked, genuine pain breaking through my anger. I've built my entire life around supporting you and your career. That's the problem, he said, turning to face me. You've been supporting Matt the surgeon, not Matt the man. When was the last time you asked me how I felt? Not just how my day was. I stared at him, incredulous. Are you seriously trying to blame me for your affair? No, he said, running a hand through his hair. I'm trying to explain that our marriage had problems before Angela. Problems that you never mentioned. Problems you decided to solve by sleeping with someone else instead of talking to your wife of 15 years. He had no response to that. We entered the house in silence. The familiar foyer now felt like a museum of a life that no longer existed. Family photos on the walls. The antique console table we'd bought in Provence. The glass vase always filled with fresh flowers. I'd replaced them just yesterday, expecting to celebrate our anniversary tonight. Matt followed me upstairs to our bedroom. I pulled out a suitcase and began filling it with clothes. What are you doing? He asked. Packing. I'm staying with Caroline tonight. Lauren, don't be ridiculous. This is your home. I stopped and faced him. This hasn't been my home since you started bringing her into our bed. His face flushed. That never happened. I never brought her here. No. Then why did I find blonde hairs on your pillow last month? Hairs I convinced myself must be from your new surgical nurse who hugged you at the hospital fundraiser. He looked away, confirmation enough. I continued packing, moving to the bathroom to gather my toiletries. Matt stood in the doorway, watching me. Where are you going to go? He asked. You can't stay with Caroline forever. I've contacted Rachel about listing the house, I said, referring to our real estate agent. You what? His voice rose. You can't sell our house without my agreement. Actually, I can force a sale through the divorce, I replied calmly. Caroline already filed the initial paperwork today. Divorce? He looked genuinely shocked. Lauren, you're overreacting. We can work through this. Couples therapy. Save it, Matt. I'm not interested in being your backup plan, because your relationship with Angela just got complicated. She means nothing to me, he said, his voice dropping to that persuasive tone he'd used countless times to charm donors and hospital board members. It was a mistake. A terrible, stupid mistake that I'll regret for the rest of my life. I zipped up my suitcase. The only thing you regret is getting caught. As I moved toward the door, he blocked my path. Please live. 15 years. Don't throw that away. You already did, I said, trying to step around him. He grabbed my wrist, not roughly but firmly enough to stop me. I love you. Not her. You. For a moment, looking into his familiar brown eyes, I felt a flicker of doubt. The man I'd loved for so long, the man I'd built a life with, was asking for another chance. Then I remembered the texts. The lies. The betrayal so complete it had shattered the foundation of our life together. Let go of me, Matt. Not until you agree to at least think about it. One mistake shouldn't erase 15 good years. It wasn't one mistake, I said quietly. It was hundreds of choices. Every text. Every lie about working late. Every time you looked me in the eye and said you loved me while you were planning to meet her. His grip on my wrist loosened. I did love you. I still do. If this is your version of love, I don't want it anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Caroline. Outside when you're ready. I have to go, I said. Matt stepped aside, his shoulders slumping in defeat. What am I supposed to tell people? I picked up my suitcase. The truth would be a good start. You don't seem to have much practice with it, but you might want to try. As I walked down the stairs, he called after me. This isn't over, Lauren. We're not over. I turned at the front door, looking up at him standing at the top of the stairs, the man I'd once thought I'd grow old with. Yes, Matt. We are. I stepped outside into the cool evening air, where Caroline was waiting in her car. As I put my suitcase in her trunk, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. You okay? Caroline asked as I got in. I looked back at the house. Our dream home that we'd renovated room by room over the years. Matt stood in the window, watching me leave. No. Y suera tu Nestle. But I will be. What Matt didn't realize as he watched me drive away was that I'd already begun to reimagine my life without him. The curator position in Florence that I'd turned down 3 years ago because he couldn't leave his practice? I'd emailed them this morning, and their enthusiastic response was waiting in my inbox, ready to open once I was strong enough to read it. The next morning, I woke up on Caroline's pull-out couch with swollen eyes and a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Light streamed through her apartment windows, illuminating the organized chaos of her life as a single professional woman. Case files stacked on the dining table, running shoes by the door, a half-empty bottle of wine on the counter. Caroline emerged from her bedroom in a silk robe, hair tousled, looking concerned. How did you sleep? Surprisingly well, I answered, sitting up. Like something heavy was lifted off me. She handed me a cup of coffee. Matt called me last night. 3 times. I took a sip, letting the bitter warmth ground me. What did he say? That you're making a mistake. That he wants to talk to you. That he'll go to therapy, do whatever it takes. I nodded, unsurprised. And what did you tell him? That he should have thought about that before sleeping with a nurse half his age. She sat beside me. Also, that as your attorney, I can't ethically communicate with him without your permission. Thank you. I squeezed her hand. For everything. Don't thank me yet. The hard part is just beginning. She pulled out her legal pad. We need to talk strategy. Massachusetts is a no-fault state, but his infidelity could still impact property division and alimony. I shook my head. I don't want his money. I just want out. Lauren, Caroline said firmly. You gave up career advancement to support his. You managed the household while he built his practice. You're entitled to your fair share. My phone buzzed with a text. Matt again. Please call me. We need to talk. I ignored it and turned back to Caroline. What's next? We serve him with papers. He'll have 20 days to respond. Then we negotiate division of assets, the house, retirement accounts. I nodded, trying to focus on the practical steps rather than the emotional hurricane inside me. There's something else, Caroline said hesitantly. The hospital board called this morning. They want to speak with you. My stomach clenched. About what? They didn't say. But it's not unusual in these situations. They're probably worried about liability. I thought about the staff who had witnessed our confrontation, Patricia Dawson's public confirmation of Matt's affair. The hospital would be in damage control mode. When? I asked. Today at 2 p.m. I took a deep breath. I'll be there. After showering and borrowing some of Caroline's clothes, a navy pantsuit that was slightly too long for me, I spent the morning answering emails from work. My assistant Lena had been managing things smoothly, but there were decisions only I could make about the upcoming exhibition. At 1:30 p.m., Caroline drove me to Boston Memorial. The hospital looked different in daylight, less dramatic, more institutional. Want me to come in with you? Caroline asked as we pulled up. I shook my head. I need to do this alone. The hospital administration wing was quiet compared to the clinical floors. The secretary led me to a conference room where 3 people waited. Dr. Harrison, a woman I recognized as the hospital's legal counsel, and an older man I'd met at fundraisers, Dr. Wentworth, the hospital board chairman. Mrs. Moretti, Dr. Harrison greeted me standing. Thank you for coming. I sat across from them, back straight, hands folded on the table. What is this about? Dr. Wentworth cleared his throat. First, let me say how sorry we are about the situation with Dr. Moretti. The behavior you brought to our attention is completely unacceptable. Thank you, I said cautiously. The lawyer, Ms. Patel, according to her nameplate, spoke next. We've conducted a preliminary investigation. Based on security footage and staff interviews, we've confirmed the inappropriate relationship between Dr. Moretti and Nurse Williams, as well as instances where this relationship potentially compromised patient care. Dr. Harrison looked grim. Matt was absent from post-surgical rounds on at least 4 occasions when he claimed to be checking on patients. The on-call room logs show he was elsewhere. I felt sick. Were any patients harmed? Fortunately, no, Dr. Harrison assured me, but it's a serious breach of protocol. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Dr. Wentworth leaned forward. Because we need to know what you intend to do with this information. The hospital could face significant liability if this becomes public. I understood immediately. They were worried I would sue or go to the press. I have no interest in damaging the hospital's reputation, I said. My issue is with my husband, not Boston Memorial. The relief in the room was palpable. Ms. Patel slid a document across the table. We've prepared a mutual non-disclosure agreement. It would prevent both you and the hospital from discussing the details of Dr. Moretti's misconduct publicly. I didn't touch the paper. And what does the hospital offer in exchange for my silence? Dr. Wentworth looked surprised at my directness. The agreement would be mutual. That's not what I asked, I interrupted. You're asking me to keep quiet about professional misconduct that endangered patients. What are you offering in return? The 3 exchanged glances. What did you have in mind, Mrs. Moretti? Dr. Harrison asked carefully. I thought for a moment. The museum's community outreach program has been trying to expand art therapy for cancer patients. Boston Memorial has repeatedly declined our proposals due to budget constraints. Dr. Wentworth raised an eyebrow. You want funding for art therapy? Full funding for 5 years. And dedicated space in the oncology wing. Ms. Patel started to object, but Dr. Harrison raised a hand to stop her. That's not what we expected, he said. I've spent 15 years watching my husband save lives with his hands, I said. I've also spent 15 years seeing how art helps people heal in ways medicine can't. If something good can come from this mess, it should benefit patients, not me. Dr. Wentworth studied me for a long moment, then nodded. I'll present it to the full board, but I think we can make that happen. One more thing, I added. Angela Williams shouldn't lose her job. She made poor choices, but she was in a power imbalance with Matt. Reassign her, supervise her, but don't destroy her career. Dr. Harrison looked surprised. That's generous of you. I stood up. It's not generosity. It's recognizing that she's not the first nurse to be manipulated by a surgeon with an ego, and she won't be the last. As I left the meeting, I felt lighter somehow. I hadn't gone in planning to advocate for the art therapy program, but something about redirecting the pain of the last few days toward something positive felt right. In the lobby, I stopped short. Matt was standing near the entrance, clearly waiting for me. He looked terrible, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, his usually immaculate appearance disheveled. I considered turning around, finding another exit, but decided against it. I wouldn't hide from him. As I approached, he straightened. "Lauren." "Matt." "I've been suspended indefinitely," he said without preamble. "The ethics committee is recommending termination." I didn't know what to say. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of sympathy for him. Surgery wasn't just his job, it was his identity. "I'm sorry," I said finally. "No, you're not," he replied, a flash of anger breaking through his exhaustion. "You wanted this. You wanted to destroy me." "I wanted consequences," I corrected him. "There's a difference." He ran a hand through his hair. 15 years of saving lives, building a reputation, all gone because of one mistake. "Stop calling it a mistake," I said, my own anger rising. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary, or saying something thoughtless. What you did was a series of deliberate choices." He looked away. "I wanted to tell you so many times. I just couldn't find the words." "Well, you found plenty of words for Angela." He flinched. "She's been reassigned to the ER. Won't look at me or speak to me." "That's not my problem," I said, moving to walk past him. He caught my arm. "Liv, please. I've lost everything. Don't make me lose you too." I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I'd loved, built a life with, planned a future with. For a moment, I saw glimpses of the Matt I'd fallen in love with. But I also saw the man who had lied to my face for months, who had shared his body and his secrets with someone else while coming home to me. "You lost me the moment you decided I wasn't enough," I said quietly. "Now let go of my arm." He released me, defeat written across his face. "What happens now?" "Now I go build a life without you," I said. "And you figure out who you are when you're not Dr. Matt Moretti, star surgeon, or Lauren's husband." I walked away, pushing through the hospital doors into the bright afternoon sunlight. Caroline was waiting in her car, watching the exchange through the window. "You okay?" she asked as I got in. I looked back at the hospital entrance where Matt still stood, watching me leave. For the first time since discovering his betrayal, I felt no urge to cry. "Yes," I said. "I think I am." What Matt couldn't see as he watched me drive away was the email I'd received during my meeting. The Florence Museum had offered me the curator position starting in January, complete with a housing allowance and creative control over their new modern wing. And as Caroline's car turned the corner, I was already mentally packing, imagining my new life among the Renaissance masterpieces I'd studied for so long. 3 months later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment in Florence, watching the sun set over the Arno River. The December air was crisp but not nearly as cold as Boston would be this time of year. My phone buzzed with a text from Caroline. "Divorce papers signed. It's official." A wave of emotion washed over me. Not sadness exactly, but a bittersweet acknowledgement of an ending. I typed back. "Thank you for everything." How did he seem? "Resigned." "Asked about you." I told him you're thriving." I smiled, looking out at the city that had become my new home. Caroline wasn't wrong. The curator position at the Uffizi Gallery had been exactly what I needed. Challenging work, new colleagues who knew nothing of my past, and the daily joy of being surrounded by art that had endured centuries of human drama. Another text came through. "Your half of the house sale will be in your account tomorrow. Quite a nice sum." I'd let Matt keep his medical practice assets and most of our joint investments. The house sale gave me enough to buy this apartment outright, with plenty left for a fresh start. My doorbell rang. I went inside to answer it, finding Paolo, my colleague from the gallery, holding a bottle of wine. "Ready for dinner?" he asked with a warm smile. Not a date. I wasn't ready for that yet, but a friendship that made me feel less alone in my new city. "Just let me grab my coat," I replied. As we walked through the cobblestone streets to a small trattoria, Paolo talked excitedly about the upcoming exhibition we were planning. At 47, he was a few years older than me, divorced himself, and seemingly content with his life of art, good food, and close friends. You seem different today, he observed as we sat down at our table. Lighter somehow. I told him about the divorce being finalized. He raised his wine glass. To endings that make new beginnings possible. I clinked my glass against his. And to Florence. After dinner, walking back along the Ponte Vecchio, Paolo asked, "Do you miss it? Your old life?" I considered the question carefully. I miss parts of it. The familiarity. The certainty. 15 years is a long time to build a life with someone. And yet here you are building a new one. I smiled. Here I am. When I returned to my apartment, I found an email from Lena, my former assistant at the Boston Museum. She'd attached photos of the new art therapy space at Boston Memorial. Bright walls, comfortable seating, easels by the windows overlooking the city. The program I'd negotiated as part of my silence was already helping cancer patients find moments of peace during their treatments. There was also an email from Dr. Harrison, informing me that the hospital board had officially terminated Matt's position. He'd included a personal note. He's taken a position at a private practice in Seattle. I thought you should know. Seattle. As far from Boston and Florence as he could get while staying in the country. It felt right somehow that we would both start fresh in new cities. I opened my laptop and worked on my exhibition notes for an hour, then prepared for bed. As I was setting my alarm, my phone rang with an unknown international number. Hello. I answered cautiously. Lauren? It's Matt. My heart skipped. His voice, once so familiar, now seemed to belong to another lifetime. Matt. How did you get this number? Caroline. Don't be angry with her. I convinced her it was important. I sat on the edge of my bed. What do you want? He was quiet for a moment. I wanted to tell you I signed the papers. It's done. I know. Caroline told me. Right. He paused again. I also wanted to say I'm sorry. Not just for the affair, but for everything after. For blaming you. For not taking responsibility. I closed my eyes, unprepared for how his voice still affected me. Thank you for saying that. I'm in Seattle now. Starting over. Therapy twice a week. That's good, Matt. How's Florence? He asked. Caroline mentioned you took that position. It's beautiful. Different. Healing. The line went quiet, just our breathing connecting us across thousands of miles. I miss you, he finally said. Not just as my wife. As my friend. The person who knew me better than anyone. I felt tears prick my eyes. That person is gone, Matt. We both need to accept that. I know, he said softly. I just wanted to hear your voice one more time. To make sure you're okay. I am. I said, realizing as I spoke that it was true. Not perfect. Not completely healed. But okay. You'll be better than okay, he said. You always were the stronger one. We said goodbye with a finality that brought unexpected peace. No dramatic declarations, no renewed promises, just acknowledgement of what was and what would never be again. After hanging up, I walked back onto my balcony. Florence spread out before me. Its ancient buildings glowing amber in the night lights. The dome of the Duomo rising majestically against the dark sky. In 3 months, I'd learned the best local cafes, made friends with my neighbors, and started to feel at home in this city of art and history. Tomorrow, I would wake up and go to a job I loved. I would walk through galleries filled with masterpieces that had survived centuries of human joy and heartbreak. I would continue building a life that was entirely my own. For 15 years, I had been Dr. Matt Moretti's wife. Now I was simply Lauren, curator, art historian, woman rebuilding herself among the Renaissance masters who knew something about rebirth. And that, I realized as I looked out at my new city, was more than enough. What I couldn't have known that night, standing on my Florence balcony, was that exactly 1 year later I would open my own small gallery featuring emerging Italian artists, with a special section dedicated to art therapy for trauma survivors. Or that the opening night would be attended by a visiting American novelist who would look at my curation with genuine admiration, and ask me to dinner with a smile that made me feel, for the first time in years, that some endings are just disguised beginnings.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.